Testing. All right. Sounds like I'm on. Good. Okay, guys. This is part of my Blades in the Dark kind of introductory solo walkthrough type thing. Some of my buddies have been interested in it, and I haven't gotten around to playing it with them due to time zones and constraints and stuff like that. And I figured it's just easier to kind of load up Foundry and kind of give you a quick walkthrough. Now, I've got my little text bubble right here. I used the Duskvol Street Maps add-on from Old Dog Games, and I'm right for tonight. I'm going to use parts of Alone in the Dark, which is released by Parts Per Million. It's a way to automate Blades in the Dark for more solo play. This work is based on Blades in the Dark, product of 1/7 Design, developed and authored by John Harper. It's under the Creative Commons attribution, and you can see that link right there. I'm going to go ahead and put that in show notes so you guys can check out the pieces of this thing that kind of come together. Now, first and foremost, Blades in the Dark is a heist game. It's more along something like the Italian Job or Leverage, as opposed to your typical D&D or Pathfinder heist. In D&D or Pathfinder, if you want to do a heist, you're going to probably make stealth checks, perception checks, endless planning with the table, and talking to everybody about plans. And then the moment you fail a stealth check, everyone's just going to go murder hobo. It kind of rolls out like Assassin's Creed. And you've wasted like 2 or 3 hours of game time probably doing your heist. Blades in the Dark kind of cuts through that. It's a fiction first type of game, meaning progressing the story is more important than anything else. Now, I'm going to knock through character creation real quick just so I can kind of get a handle of the mechanics with you. And then I might do like a bare bones type of encounter type of thing so you can see the parts work. But right now, we're going to move over. I got a cheat sheet here, and I got a character that I've already set up called Guy. Nickname Trash. My idea for Guy, I think Guy just got out of a prison. He probably spent a couple years stuck in there, and he's trying to establish himself. Duskvol is a crumbling empire in a city of eternal darkness with supernatural forces closing in on all sides. It's very oppressive and very contested. Everything that's worth something is held by someone else. So if you want something, you've got to take it. The first thing we're going to do is start with his background. Guy here, he's underworld. Comes from a criminal background. Heritage. All the heritages, most of these are all flavor. They're not any sort of like plus to this or minus to this. It's choices. And for this, we're going to go with Scovlin. Scovlin's a island settlement nearby that recently lost a war with Duskvol, and they've been kind of subjugated, and they're not happy about it. So I feel like Guy's got kind of that like shit disturber mentality there. So already we're starting to kind of get a picture of Guy. You know, now we're going to do his playbook. Now they call him classes else. Playbook's just what manner of character he is. I already figured out Guy's going to be a cutter. He's a hitter. He's the guy that uses physical force to further your goal. You can see that some of his dots or his attributes have already started filling out. That's because Cutter has kind of a default. As a Scovlin, I get to pick one dot somewhere. I think I'm going to go ahead and put it on Survey. I think he's the type of guy to spot trouble before it happens, some intuition, a good ambusher. He's that guy. As a criminal, I think he's got Prowl. You get a dot there. Now I get 4 more dots that I can put anywhere I want. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 dot in Wreck. Wreck is the idea of using physical force to smash stuff around. I'm going to put a dot in Hunt. And I think we're going to put a dot over here in Sway. I think that's 1, 2, okay. So, There's my background. There's my heritage. Okay. I think I get one more. Okay. Finesse. So bam. Now, I'm also going to get a special ability here in the cutter checklist. I already know what I'm taking here. I'm going to go ahead and take Mule. Mule just lets me carry more gear. I'll explain gear in a minute, but okay. So we've got our character. Last thing I got to do really is a vice. Now this is mechanics, and vice is basically how you're going to blow off steam. What's your reset button? For Guy Trash here, I think it's gambling. I think that's how he blows off steam. That's what he does in between scores. I think he needs to take risks. I think he needs to blow money. I think it's his idea of feeling in control. So we're already kind of getting a feel for Guy here. I don't like to make complicated backstories for Blade characters because I feel like it gets in the way. Just to have an idea what your guy is. I have to pick a friend and a rival. We're gonna make Sawtooth the Physiker his friend because it's a doctor. In Shadowrun, that's a street doc. In this, it's kind of a back alley doctor maybe, or some off the books healer that you can go to and get patched up if you have to. That sort of thing is usually pretty good. And I think Chael, the vicious thug, is going to be a rival. I like the idea that they probably compete for jobs and maybe don't get along great. Now, one of the things about this game, and one of the I'm about to grumble about solo play with it, is this is a fiction first type of thing. So what that means is I need to think about the story and how the story progresses and what my character's part in it. That matters more than these dots. That being said, I want to talk about the mechanics because I know that my buddies that are listening to this are mechanic guys. Blades in the Dark uses D6. The more dots you have for something, the more D6s you get to roll. If you have no dots in something, like let's say Consort. Consort, I'm trying to bribe the captain of the guard and make small talk with him and whatnot. If I wanted to use Consort, I would roll 0 dice. What that means is I roll 2 dice and I take the lowest number. So I'm going to do that just to show. A 1 and a 3. So I would take the 1, which is a failure. They would absolutely not take the bribe. A complication would occur. I would go from a default position, like if I just walked up and, hey man, is there something I could put in your hand that made you forget what you're supposed to be doing right now, or go take a break? He would probably end up in a fight with me or attempt to arrest me or have something bad go wrong. We would talk it out. One of the things that would happen is the GM would probably relay that to me, and then I would have to try something else. I would not be able to follow up with the bribe. Might have to turn into a fast talk. Hey man, I'm just trying with Sway. Hey man, and I'm just testing you. The captain sent me here to make sure that you're one of the square shooters. Whatever. If that was the case, I would have to go from a desperate position and roll my 1 die. Partial success. I'm going to have some problems. Now, these aren't cut and dry because, and again, I haven't explained position and effect. I'm just showing you how the game works. These indicators up here are for successful uses of your skills, even if you have 0 dots in them. If I used a tune at desperate level, I would get to put a tally mark there, and then by the end of the session I could count them up and see if I advanced anything. Stress is your indicator of hit points, vaguely. Hit points in D&D or Pathfinder are used for how long until you go unconscious. Stress is an indicator of how far you can go in one of these heists until you're overwhelmed. You shut down, you're unconscious, you're defeated, you slump away, or you snap. Filling up your stress bar all the way can lead to trauma, and you get too many traumas and your character is going to get retired. There's also physical harm. The more harm you take, the more it affects your abilities. You take away dice, you lose effect. Every roll in Blades in the Dark is uh, considered by two mechanics: position and effect. I'm going to show you, for example, controlled position. If I'm showing up somewhere and I've got my story straight, I've got the authentication, I've got the commander waving me in, it looks like I've got the upper hand. When you're doing something like that, you get to start in a controlled position. Risky. Risky's usually the default, and it's kind of just as good a chance of it happening as not. It's not far from your ken. Desperate. Desperate's that the wild card stuff, the stuff that you can't believe you're about to pull off, the swashbuckler stuff like I'm running across the cathedral and I'm going to leap for the tapestry and swing across the room and, get away from the guards chasing after you. The big show off type of stuff. And effect, that's kind of like how effective it can be. Most of the time it's going to be standard. If you're trying to bribe the crime boss's henchmen while they're standing right next to the crime boss, it might be a limited effect. You might only get to go so far with that. Conversely, if you find out that the billionaire's son is treated like an idiot and you send an attractive person to spend a lot of time with them and talk up their ego and buy them a bunch of drinks and act like they're a big shot, you might go to great effect. And usually your fastest ways to modify effect like that are you can, as a player, you could trade position. Like if I tell you something, if we decide that something is risky and risky position for standard effect, you might push for desperate position for great effect. To like, hey man, if I'm willing to go big, there's the chance that I could win big. Sure is. Most of these things, again, why I kind of don't like Blades as a solo game is the conversation. The conversation's really great because when you have a player that gets it with a GM that gets it, it's a lot of fun. Because most of the time, a lot of players are willing to hamstring themselves for a cool story or a big payoff. Those are the types of things that most people really want to see. Like, again, not for nothing, I would rather run through a heist in Blades and win by the skin of my teeth than play one of my other dice games and critical success, fumble. Oh, I guess we have a 2-hour fight. Blades is very much a player-first game, and I like that. The only thing that, let's say you want to sneak into a compound, and your idea is you're going to tiptoe David Niven style. You're going to tiptoe in, tiptoe out, Hudson Hawk. You're going to probably use Prowl, but it's not up to the GM to tell you, hey, roll Prowl. You might even decide, hey, I'm using finesse, and my method is I'm going to take tiny little rocks and throw them against the wall to distract, and I'm going to run through the, blah, blah, blah. Well, I might give you a harder effect, like a limited effect for it, because it doesn't really feel right or fit perfect. But we're going to have a conversation about it, and I'll tell you why. And you might say, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to use Prowl and just be quiet instead. Or maybe I'm trying to use sway to send guards off, like it's the conversation is more important than the stat. It feels really bad to say, all right, I'm going to skirmish through this courtyard and beat all the guys down. Like, I like the idea of hearing the players talk about what their character's trying to do. Hey, Trash is running through this lot and he realizes that if he stops, he's dead. So he's howling like a madman, attracting attention, and he's just bombarding everyone that comes near him. He's got his sledgehammer out and he's just thrashing around. I'm wrecking the place. Now, there are mechanics in place to help you with that type of stuff with other people, and there's ways you can push. If you're willing to add stress, you can get an extra die on a roll. So if you take 2 points of stress, you could add a die to your rec score, and now you're rolling 2 dice. You could also take what's called a devil's bargain, which might be, for example, guy here's sneaking up to assassinate somebody, Assassin's Creed style, and as a player, I'm a little worried, so I ask for a devil's bargain for my prowl to sneak up. And the devil's bargain might be the GM decides you can have an extra die, but there's an unintended consequence of this action. Maybe this person you assassinate is the relative of someone important to you. Or maybe you end up with blood all over your clothes and it's going to be impossible for you to leave the social gathering. That type of effect is a modifier. Dude, the devil's bargain is what makes this game. Because when your players are bought in, they're all in with that devil's bargain. Now, I'm going to take a brief break, and then we're going to jump back and work on some other stuff.